It was during the Oscar campaign, you know, and I had two movies that were sort of running thing. And I'd never been around an Oscar campaign, and it really is a campaign. It's like shaking, you know, it's kissing babies and shaking hands. You know, you go around and you do these parties, and you start to get this sort of grimy feeling about it, you know. And there's nothing to do with anything. Certainly not about the Academy, because I love it, and certainly not about the awards, because it was exciting and fun. But there's something about the element that it stops being you're promoting the film and doing things to sell the film, and you're starting to promote and sell yourself. Everybody has to do it. It's part of promoting the film. But you do get this feeling of like, I'd really like to not do that. And I was in New York, I was working on a film, and I was reading all these Nicholas Kristof articles in the New York Times, and he kept saying, I can't get anybody to cover this. Can't get it on the news, can't get it anywhere. And he kept writing these pieces. So I talked to my dad, and I said, you know, I'm thinking about going over there. And my dad said, you want an old journalist to come with you? And I said, sure. And he talked about going to, I think he was in Honduras in the early 80s, and said, you know, he did a story and couldn't get it on the news. And I said, well, if you had Elizabeth Taylor with you, you would have gotten it on the news. And he goes, yeah. And I said, well, come on, I'll go be Elizabeth Taylor, and let's go to South Sudan and Chad and see how much trouble we can get in. I think that it has been a steady growing, you know, it's funny, you never really understand how powerful the internet is right now. That seems to be it's a really interesting mix of people, because it's college students, and it's very hardcore Christian right. There's a huge group of people that wouldn't necessarily be hanging out together, all sort of standing on the same side of the issue, which is, you know, how are we going to explain to people 10 years from now that we stood by? Now, it's complicated, because you can't go in there guns blazing, you know, can't do that. And who would be the army that's going to do that? So your job is to try and find, again, ways to allow the Sudanese government to save some sort of face, so that we can save 3.5 million people, you know. And that's the trick. Our focus now is on China, getting them to help.